Hello and welcome to this end of year fundraising strategy session with a nonprofit leadership collective. We've got Kristen Hawkins, Joshua Tiarina here. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Brendan O'Morrow. We're excited to be able to share our years of experience and expertise with end of year fundraising. I hope by now you've signed up for the $99 Thriving Nonprofit Leadership course. It's going to delve really deep into everything you need to know to create a strategy, a communications, and digital marketing strategy for your organization to fundraise more money so that you can thrive, especially in this time of COVID. We know there's a lot of challenges going on, and that's why we really wanted to also do this roundtable. We've had a lot of people asking us, things are crazy right now. It's the end of the year. This is, when we fundraise a third, a half, sometimes more of our money so that we can do our mission going into next year. How do we do this better? How can we be more effective? So many people are hurting. A lot of nonprofits, in my work at Cornerstone, we're hearing a lot of people who are saying, our donations are down. COVID is hurting. We're going back into more lockdowns here. It's a real challenge for everybody. So how do we, raise more money, take advantage of this end of year when people are really giving a lot more in this critical campaign? So a lot of this is planning. A lot of this is process. It might seem like it's too late, but it isn't. There's a lot of opportunities for you to raise more money and really set yourself up to thrive in 2021. So we're going to do just a little strategy session here today. Here's what you're going to learn, just kind of the key components of what a successful end of year fundraising plan looks like. Kristen has done this so many times in Students for Life. Joshua's been involved with this. I have spent many late nights handwriting Christmas cards. You're going to hear a little bit more about that coming up. We're going to share just our best tips and tricks from our years of experience. And we hope that you're going to walk away with an outline and an idea for how to craft and schedule your end of year campaign for your ministry, for your organization, so that you feel confident going into this final month of what has been a crazy 2020 to set yourself up for a successful 2021 so you can actually go out and really be able to achieve your mission. So with that, I want to actually just start it to hand it over to Kristen and really, have you talk about, just do a general overview of what are the key components of a successful end of year fundraising plan? What does it look like? What are you doing? What's kind of the big picture here?
Well, thanks for asking that first critical question of, what is it overall the fundraising plan for end of year need to look like? And I think there's three key components to any, end of the year plan, or really any campaign that you want to launch within the ministry or nonprofit. The first is you've got to have a plan and you've got to have a schedule. You've got to have a good message, a good story. And the third component would really be you've got to utilize your communication channels effectively. And I think we can delve, a little bit into each of these topics tonight as we go through this discussion. But the planning is absolutely critical for how you get started, how you get out that, blank calendar, how you start having conversations with your team, with your volunteer leaders, is to see who has donated this year, who hasn't, who needs to be renewed. Their story is important because that's really why someone should donate to you. And that's at the end of the year is a great time. We all know to fundraise. People are looking for an opportunity to give out resources so they get that tax benefit, but they're also going to be getting solicited by a lot of other organizations, their church, other ministries that they're a part of. So you really have to stand out, which is why that story, that message that you're going to tell is so deeply important. And the way you communicate that, and is it joyful, is it hopeful, or is it sinking ship? Help us donate so we can get out of debt this year. Doesn't really inspire confidence for why someone should give to you. But if you have a plan for the coming year, that's something you really want to communicate and get donors excited about, that they're giving towards. The communication channels, we can go into that a little bit deeper into the conversation. But you've got your mail, you have phones, and phones are calls and texts now, emails. And then you also have social media and other social media influencers. So you have a lot of different channels that you can utilize if you have an effective plan. And the important thing is when you're planning is to build steps off of each other. So maybe you send a mailing, but then organize a calling campaign after you know the mailing has been received to follow up on the letter that's been sent. And so if you've got the plan, if you get out the calendar, you can start really trying to be strategic about, okay, we'll do a mail campaign here, call campaign, chase the call and the mail with an email, and then we'll send a text message. So you can get really sophisticated, the more and more you do this.
Okay, so we're going into the end of the year. This is the big time. This is the Super Bowl of fundraising. I need to have a plan. What you said, it sounds very complex. I've got, this and then this and then this, and it's all got to be timed. So I'm sitting here at the beginning of December. How do I make a plan for the end of year giving?
Yeah, making a plan for end of year giving. Like I said, get out a blank calendar and just start writing in dates. And use a pencil because you're probably going to erase a couple of times. But just start filling in dates. The key thing to think about at end of year is a lot of folks start their end of year fundraising campaigns right after Thanksgiving. So Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday is a big time. This is a relatively recent development in fundraising, but it's a good time to launch your end of year fundraising campaign. And so maybe you guys took advantage of that. Maybe you're not, but you've got to start right after Thanksgiving, right at the beginning of December. I think the first thing you want to think about is your analysis of your donors from this year. Who is given to you that normally gives to you, and who hasn't given to you that normally gives to you. Find out your end of year donors. It's really easy to look organizationally to see if you have supporters who are historically December 31st donors. And we have them. I can look in the database and see, oh, they give a gift every year on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. I think they like the rush of it. So you need to figure out who those donors are. And you can look through past giving history to see who are end of year donors. One thing we always start out with at our organization, Students for Life, is looking at who gave last year, who hasn't given this year. That actually becomes my prospect list, my target list of supporters who I know I need to re-engage with. I need to place a phone call. I need to mail a letter. Those are supporters that I don't want to lose. And so I've got to renew them. And this is the best time to get them to renew. So the first thing you're going to do is once you start plotting out your dates of, okay, I think I can get a mailing out here and we can chase the mail with a call and then an email, is who are you going to go after? And I think when you're talking about phone calling, when you're talking about personal text messages, we all know that might not be everybody on your supporter list. It's going to be a select few. So you want to pick out that target list that you really, really want to focus in on. And once you have that target list, then you can come up with the communications for everybody. That would start with a letter. I would start my end of year process in November with a letter that goes out middle of November talking about my end of year match or talking about my Giving Tuesday match. And then I'd follow that up with a letter at the beginning of December. And then I would time a third letter to go right at the end of December, right in between Christmas and New Year's. And that gets a little difficult with the post office. And so it's a little bit of guesswork. It's not always perfect. I'll have to tell you that. But I think that's going to be an important component. And then once you get the mail, then you start going in and filling in the other dates. Okay, so we mailed all of our supporters, or maybe we just mailed our top 100 supporters in mid-November. We're going to give it a week, and then we're going to call those supporters. And then you're going to place that on your calendar. And then you can do that with every mailing. You can figure out when you want to do calls, and then you can make a list of who hasn't given yet and who still needs to get calls. Maybe somebody gets 2 calls in December. And then emails. Emails are something that can go to everybody. They're cheap to send. They can go to your whole supporter list. You want to start, definitely making your pitch, your your message, get it out there by mid-November. Have it really solidified by beginning of December. You want to hit your list hard with solicitations and asks immediately after Thanksgiving, that whole weekend leading up to Giving Tuesday. Then you're going to go light on your asks, and you're going to start telling your story, the successes you've had this year, the challenges you've faced and overcome, the challenges you know that are coming forward, what you're hoping to launch in the new year. And then you can go again hard at the end of December, immediately following Christmas. December 27th to December 31st is really going to be that key time, and that can be for everybody. That doesn't just have to be for your major donors. And if you look into the course and you follow along in some of the video sessions in the course, I'll talk to you about dividing out your supporter list between your high dollar donors and your lower or mid-level donors. And I think that's going to be important here, because you really can customize your asks to them. Maybe your high dollar supporters, your top 100 or top 200, they're not going to get every single mailing, or they may not get every single email. And you can start getting a little specific about who gets what. I would say everyone, as much as you can, should get a Christmas letter, a non-ask from you, a personal Christmas card. I try to get mine out by the second week of December, so it hits right before Christmas, right after I've started asking for money, and right before I start asking for a whole lot more money. And so I'll do a personal Christmas card, handwritten outer envelope, handwritten note inside the card, and sometimes every year I will attach either a personal letter about the Hawkins family and everything that we've been doing this year. Some of it was Students for Life and my ministry, and then just in general, because everyone wants to know about my kids and what's been going on. Because remember, I talk a little about this in the course, and how supporters are going to invest in you. So they want to know how you're doing, how your family's doing. And then if I don't want to do the letter, if I'm lazy that year, maybe I'll just do a picture of the whole family. But I think it's really important that Christmas card is handwritten, that there's a handwritten note. It's not just like a printed off, thank you for all your support, love the blank ministry staff. I think that's very impersonal, and I know you can't do that for everyone, but as many people as you can. I try to do a few hundred every year personally myself, and give the same goal to our team members. So we know we hit over a few thousand every year with just handwritten notes. And you can also go a little bit more advanced of, I do gifts. So this year I'm mailing out calendars. I might mail out a magnet. For some of my top donors, I might get them an actual gift that, just like I've given my other friends, a cookbook that I know that they would enjoy, or saint socks, which are actually really cheap to mail. This year I might actually even do Christmas cookies for some folks. So I do try to make some personal gifts and send out some personal gifts, because as we all know, our supporters aren't just our supporters, so they also end up being our friends and our mentors in our ministries. And so I treat our supporters just like I would any of my other friends.
And I think, Kristen, that's the key, is you can't just be, when you're doing your end of year fundraising, you can't just be looking at your donors as, okay, I need to, squeeze them hard so I can get every cent that I can, but to really treat them like people. And that's something we talk a lot about in the course of, building relationships with your supporters, and they're coming along in your ministry, in your mission work with you. They're marching alongside you, and they're able to do that by giving and by supporting. So I think that's what's really key at the end of the year is, they're getting hit so many times. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, but they're getting hit so many times. Really make them feel appreciated, because it's time to also give thanks, and say thank you for helping us get through this year. Thank you for helping us get ready for next year. Here's what we're going to do. And I think some of the things you mentioned about timing are also really important. Those kind of first 2 weeks of December is great time for those, real personal touches, those thanks, because you've got the big Giving Tuesday. A lot of cities and states have other kind of local giving days where they're, you should look those up, see if there's a day of giving in your town, in your state, and pay attention to those as well. You can do before, you can do during, you can do after. Those can be really good and big days. Also, just to know specifically when your donors give. Kristen mentioned the donors who always give December 31st. You might not need to, be asking them throughout the entire month of December when they're not going to give until the last day, and so you don't want to aggravate them by doing that. And also something
they know why you're calling. I mean, I think that's what's so. I think sometimes people get nervous, like, well, what am I going to say? I was on the phone today making calls, just calling supporters and saying, hey, tomorrow, I just want to know, I'll be praying for you and thinking about you. And I gave them a little update on what we're doing. I made 0 asks for financial support. I got some pledges that I wasn't expecting. Some people said, "Oh, I'm mailing in a check to you." I think that's an important part too, Brendan, is that you don't just ask in December. That you've asked all year round. Folks know that you've been busy. They know what you've been doing, how effective your ministry is, and so you don't really. When you call, you don't have to make this big presentation. I just called to check in, ask for prayers, tell folks what we're up to. The conversations flow, very easily. They're not difficult at all. I don't have to have a script or anything like that, because I've already had a relationship with these supporters, and they've been getting emails and phone calls and letters from me all year round. So they already know what we're doing.
And I think that leads straight into the next question that I wanted to ask. Kristen, you and Joshua are probably the 2 best storytellers that I know. And so how do you tell your end of year story? What are the things that you're putting out there? They've been hopefully reading your emails and your letters and getting your phone calls throughout the year. It's amazing how many people I've talked to over the years and say, oh, I get all of your letters, I read all of your emails, and now you're getting really into this crucial end of the year. How do you tell that story?
Josh, you want to go ahead? Because I've been talking.
Yeah. So I actually break it down into a little bit of like an algorithm. And it always looks something like this. Introduction, value proposition, the vision, and then, introduction, value proposition, testimony, vision, ask. And so the reason I sort of look at it that way, now you can mix and match that and kind of move that around however you'd like. But the reason I sort of structure it that way is introduction, because I think that for some people, they're going to get a lot of solicitation this month. And you do have those people that really come around in December and say, okay, I want to give. And I probably saw, in fact, I actually saw a few people posting on Facebook just 2 nights ago saying, who's everyone going to give to this year? You know what I mean? Like they literally know that they're going to make some choices. And while your organization may be on that list, I wouldn't take that for granted. So I like introduction. I like being able to say, this is our mission. This is what we're doing. And then to really connect in a value proposition. What exactly did you do this year in order to make that mission sort of come alive? And what sort of what I call proof do you have that their money will be used wisely? And then I always connect that to a testimony. So that's the actual literal story component here of a person that was affected by your mission, whatever that mission may be. Getting a personal story in there and a testimony of your work, I think, is really important. And then finally, what I say is vision is really, how are you going to apply their money next year? So you did this, right? You've given your value proposition. You've locked in what you've done. You have the testimony support as sort of this proof of what you've done. And then you have to cast a vision that they know their money is going to be used to even go further than what you did this year. And so for me, that's the little sort of algorithm when I sit down and I think of how is December going to look? How is that communication plan going to look? Those are the components I go to.
Yeah, that's right on. I mean, that's what we do at Student Stuff. I really hope in that Facebook discussion you said you're giving to Students for Life, right? You type that in.
Right.
You better. You will see me. I will do that when somebody says, what charity should I give to? I'm like, of course, Students for Life. But no, I think it's important. And I think the question is, once you kind of know that, what's your value proposition, what you've accomplished, your testimony, what you're going to do next year, I think then you've got to figure out the creative ways, Brendan, of how you're going to communicate that. Is it just, it can't just be, I try to make sure it's not just one way. So it might be an email, but then it's followed up with a short video, or it's a couple of blog posts that are done, then communicated out via social media. And so I try to have, an overarching theme in mind. That it doesn't have to be clear that supporters go, oh, that's their theme, but that I have a theme. Like, for example, my theme is right now that I'm focusing on is we're ready to go. We've trained the students, we've given them all the tools. They were more active than they've ever been before in fall 2020. We know 2021 is going to be, very challenging for our mission. We know, the administration in Washington, D.C. is going to do everything in their power to stop us, but we're ready to go. So like all of my communications, my videos, my blogs, just everything I'm going to be talking to supporters about and writing, I'm going to kind of have that underlying theme in it that we're ready to go. We've done the work. We've done the homework, right? Of starting these chapters, of equipping students. Now you got to help us send them out. And we have the proof that we can change minds. We have the proof that we can save lives. Help send us out. I think that is an important kind of end of year tip I would have is, have a theme, and it doesn't have to be like a, beautifully articulated theme that, you put on a graphic and it's everywhere, but that when you're writing your content, when your team is talking with supporters, they have it in the back of their mind too, of what is it that you're going to do? What's the big thing? We're going to go back to the streets, go back to the cities and change hearts and minds in 2021 in a way that's never been done before. And then you can communicate that, and that communication can cascade down into all your different communication channels that you're utilizing to make that full ask to your supporters. I think that's really important. I think it will help you stand out as opposed to just sending, a generic, hey, it's the end of year, give us your donation to get your tax deduction. Of course, those are things you should say, but we want to be very specific about it and give folks the why and make them excited for giving to you and excited that they're investing in your mission. Because as Josh said, there's going to be a lot of other people who are emailing them, mailing them, placing phone calls to them. And so you really have to outcompete other ministries, and you have to outsell the other ministries. And I think that's a very important that you're thinking about. That is how is what I'm going to say to our supporters going to show them the urgency of our mission, the importance of our mission, and why they should invest in us. Not that they shouldn't invest in other groups or organizations, but why they should invest in us, and they should invest in us in a very, very big way.
Yeah, and if I can jump on one thing there, one of the things I think that as you're putting together your theme, and I think that's a really good idea, is to sit down and before you actually decide on that team, lock in your big wins. Like sit down and write down on a piece of paper, like here are these 8 big wins that we had this year. Call up a couple of your donors and mention those wins and see what they react to. Because I think a lot of times, like there are things where I'm like, you sit down with a donor and you're like, this is the big thing. And they're like, no, I really like this thing over there. And you're like, really? Like, that's, that's not that big of a deal. But this thing is, and in all honesty, you never know. But if you call up some people and really lock in some, before you decide on that theme, because I would bet that what is the most important thing for your ministry may not align with your donors on what they believe your ministry should be doing.
And I actually think I brought that up in the course, Josh, in a couple of different ways. When I was talking about email marketing and the importance of email marketing, because so many ministries, and I would say the vast majority of them, they send out emails from accounts that no one actually ever reads, or an intern or someone who's not empowered reads the email replies. And I think it's critical that the leader of the organization sees those replies, because I know immediately when Students for Life America, we have a huge email list now But now when we send out emails, I know how that email is going to do. I know I can tell you, oh, that's not going to raise any money. Or, oh my gosh, we're gonna raise more money than we ever thought, based on the number of replies I get, based on the tone of folks when they respond, how excited they get. If they're not excited, people aren't excited, they aren't going to respond to your email. So that's important. Like, you can test out, just like what you said, Josh, like you can test out your messaging, your wins, what you're going to be talking about via email very cheaply, and you'll very quickly see what folks are excited about.
And I really encourage everyone, Kristen, to sign up for that Thriving Nonprofits Leadership course, because you really do go into, how to create that fundraising strategy, how to communicate that out to people, how to come up with that value proposition that Joshua was talking about, and then to be able to put that into practice here at the end of the year is so critical. And you have that theme. One of the things that comes to mind when you talk about the theme and all the different communications channels is people really need to hear the same thing over and over and over again before they move to act. We talk, when it comes to voting, for example, and get out the vote efforts, I need to touch them 7 times just to really even start moving the needle. And it's the same thing with your marketing. And there's so many things that are going out, and there's a lot going on. So. And Kristen's talked a lot about kind of that, those personal touches, the major donors and the plan for them, and the letters. But Joshua, how does digital marketing really fit into your fundraising strategy? I get probably 100 emails a day that are just, end of year fundraising asks, and it's going to only increase over the next few weeks. How other than email, what else can we do in digital marketing to increase our end of year fundraising? And how do we stand out in the crowd?
Well, so here's the thing with digital marketing. It's really unique. I was just on the phone with a client within this last week, and they were saying, well, like, what new crazy stuff can we do with digital marketing? And I really am a proponent of, obviously, I love digital marketing. I love all of the ability to analyze data and to use really innovative processes to reach people. And this is one where I actually, and I don't want to even say like take a back seat, because like it's not that, but I see digital marketing as sort of a bit of it's going to help in every single component of what you're doing, but it is not your lead. And one of the reasons for this is that I'm sure there are organizations out there that turn around and fund, hundreds of thousands of dollars through their digital marketing efforts. They might exist, but they really would be a little bit of a unicorn in the sense of the vast majority of organizations are going to sit down and look at their end of the year, and email and letter are going to be the 2 ways that they are going to fundraise. And so when they turn around and they come to me and say, well, what do we do with digital marketing? The reality is that we know that if we're able to take email lists, or we're able to take letter, the list of people that you're sending out physical letters to, and we load them into social platforms and we market out to those individuals, we've seen a 43% increase in donations based on the fact that we're engaging these individuals in more than one place. So they open up their email, they get the letter, they set it down at home. And these are people that are going to, like, let's say, hypothetically, write a check. And they get the letter, they set it, on their kitchen table at home. They go read the email. They're on their phone later that night, and they see one of our ads that say, connecting with the same exact messages in the email, the same messages in the letter. And then they think to themselves, oh, I got to go write that check. And in all honesty, like, that sort of connecting them with the story. And of course, we did walk you through the end of year story and that sort of algorithm. Digital marketing is going to play a really nice role of bridging the gaps between all those different elements of that story, especially in the in between when you are, you're not sending an ask, whether it's, middle of December where there's a little bit of a lull. I think digital marketing can help there. But the whole point of digital marketing is to reinforce what's happening with the letters and reinforce what's happening with email. I think that is the most effective way. It allows you really strategic targeting and precise targeting of your email lists and the people that are getting letters. And so it should be to reinforce the messages that are in mail and email.
Joshua, that reminds me a lot of a question we've been getting a lot recently, which is, should ministries and nonprofits be doing donor acquisition here at the end of the year, or just focusing on communicating and marketing to their existing lists?
That's a really interesting question. I think that, and I actually, I can go kind of either way a little bit on this one. I would say the fundraising part of me, the sort of like practical person, is going to say that you have what you have in this moment, and you really should focus in and deliver the message to them. But that's not to say that there are not opportunities. And I can give you one very good example. Is during the election in the election cycle coming out of 2016, our best acquisition that we've ran, I guess so it's been 4 years. It might have been it's at least one of the best in the last 4 years that we ran, was in between the November election and the 1st of January. And so that for me is, there are going to be opportunities. And I think if your organization has an opportunity, to go for it, because you really are going to, I think it's a unique season. If you do not, wouldn't force it. I wouldn't force an acquisition period here. I would actually really try to really focus in on your fundraising and really making sure that if you are able to get people right now, that you are focusing in on building that plan for next year. And I don't think it's too late to start. And the reason I'm a little hesitant on the acquisition is immediate conversion or instant conversions are such a lower rate of conversion than some of these that you've been engaging with all year long, that I would say that if you did acquisition, it really is for the long haul. It's I don't know how helpful it's going to be by December 31st.
Well, all acquisitions should be considered for the long haul, because you're going to be so disappointed if you think your acquisition campaign is going to immediately create an influx of funds. I have seen some successful email acquisition around Giving Tuesday. It's too late to do that through this year, but I was surprised. We did some work on that last year where we saw some good, email list rentals around Giving Tuesday actually did net some nice profits for us. So I think you can do that, but I think you're right. I mean, I'm doing email acquisition all year round at Students for Life, so I'm not going to stop in December. I think this is, as you mentioned, an interesting season. If you are a pro-life ministry, I think you could do acquisition in December and do it really well, because we all know what we're going to be up against in 2021. And I think you have a very compelling, with all fundraising, and we talk about this in the course, you've got to have this sense of urgency when you're telling this story. And we all have a sense of urgency right now.
Yeah. You just mentioned the course, and I wanted to say something really quick. Because I talked about the micro targeting of specific donors lists when you are trying to send out to and target your email list and target your letter list, as well as if you're going to do email acquisition. Those are two things that we actually do cover in the course, and we cover really in depth. I mean, a really step-by-step process. So when we talk about running ads on those things, I think for a lot of people, they might have just glossed it over and thought like, okay, sure, I will run ads. Really, when you think of digital marketing, it's putting up a Facebook post. But we do break that down really well. And if you are, again, it really genuinely is not too late to be able to look in there, get into some of those classes and be able to easily target your email list before you go out. And a conversion rate of 43% increase is worth it. I mean, that is definitely worth it to be able to run those ads. And those are things you can do. And so I would definitely check that out in the class.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a great point. And I think also just knowing, and that's one of the things that you talk about, Joshua, in the class, is knowing how to track and measure all of those things. So we're looking at end of the year digital marketing. And this to me is, as I'm listening to all of this, coming up with my end of year plan, here's the big question. We've talked around this a little bit, but how does my ministry, how do the ministries who are listening to this conversation, how do we stand out in the crowd, right? Just think about each of us, and none of us are big donors to a lot of organizations, but we're getting so much mail, we're getting so many calls, we're getting so many emails. how do we stand out in the crowd? You talked about how people are, okay, who am I going to give to this year? There's more nonprofits than ever. The funds are tighter for so many people. So how do I, is it my theme? Is it in my email subject lines? Is it the personal touches? What do I do? How do I stand out in the crowd of all of those asks and communications?
I guess I'll start, and then Josh can tell me where I'm wrong if he disagrees. I think it's sort of all three of those things, Brendan. I think if you have a good theme, if you have a good idea of what you're really pitching for the new year, if you can get a matching grant. I cannot overemphasize enough the importance of a matching grant in December. I do too. I do Giving Tuesday and end of the year. That's how effective they are. And they're great. It's great to reactivate major supporters who haven't given to say, hey, would you give to help me raise more money through our other supporters? And so it actually helps me reactivate major supporters and increase gifts amongst low dollar supporters, so under $100 or something like that. So I can't emphasize enough how important that matching grant is. Have a matching grant. It gives a sense of urgency to your supporters as to why they need to give you now, not they can't just wait till January 5th and say, oh, we'll write a check later. And so I think that is very important. What is your theme? What is the excitement that you're creating for your supporters? That's why they want to invest in you in the coming year. I think your subject lines do need to be engaging. I can't tell you how many bad email subject lines I get. I mean, I've signed up for so many different organizations and donate to other organizations throughout the year, but the subject lines are terrible. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm going to get 5, Happy Thanksgiving emails I know every year. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Don't send out a subject line like that. I think the subject lines, you've got to make them urgent. You have to make them seem personal. They have to be intriguing. So, for example, I sent out an email just today to some of our top supporters at Students for Life I forget what the top of it was. It was something about, quick check-in and recipe I just found. That was my subject line. And I'm actually looking for it right now. Let's see. Quick note and recipe I just found. That's exactly right. And at the bottom, I actually did a PS line for a recipe I had been looking for the holiday season. I just found, said, by the way, I found this recipe last year. It was amazing. And I spent an hour and a half this morning looking for it. So I wanted to pass it along to you too, because it's amazing. You should try this. And it was personal. These are supporters who know me. There's a couple of prospects in there, and they're probably like, who is this person? Why they're sending me recipes? Maybe they'll donate. I get a little, I get a little ambitious sometimes with some prospects who don't even know me and throw them into the email mix, but it works. It's worked. But I think the email subjects have to be engaging because you're, just like with mail, right? I can't tell you how many organizations I get, and I go over this in the course, but do not send me a white envelope that has a sticker on it or typed. Like, why would I open it? Like you've got to give me a reason. In direct mail and mail, the name of the game is getting someone to open your letter. And that's the same thing with email. The name of the game is get them to open your email. That's why the open rate is so important. And so and that subject line is that way. I think you can really stand out. And that's in addition to the matching grant and the story that you're telling. I also think that personal touch. Because once again, I can't tell you how many organizations I'm going to get Christmas cards from this year that, weren't signed by anybody in the organization, or maybe were just signed by a volunteer. And why would I keep that? Like, I have very limited wall space. So my husband looks at the Christmas cards. I'm only allowed to keep like the ones from family or the ones that are like the ones I really want. I'm not going to keep a Christmas card that wasn't signed by anybody. So if you want to think about getting in someone's, that's a nice way to say it, but you want to be in someone's face. You want them to constantly, remind them of you. Send them a card that you hand wrote. So when they display, they're going to feel kind of guilty about throwing away that card that you've sent them. They're going to feel kind of guilty about throwing away a picture of your kids, or, a lot of people will display those, which that's great marketing, because for 30 days, your face is going to be on their wall. That's the name of the game when it comes to marketing. Josh, what did I miss there?
Well, no, he didn't miss anything. In fact, I think the recipe thing, it's excellent. It's personality. I think that's awesome. And I just thought to myself, like, how would I react to that email, even as a prospect? I'll be honest with you. If it's a recipe I wanted, I'd save the email, and that is a lot better than the trash bin. So that means I'm going to read it and I'm going to be looking at it again. So I think that's awesome. So the only thing I would add, I think everything you said is important to do. I think that everyone that watches this class has to do all of the things that everyone else is doing. You can't be left out. My only suggestion and what I try to do every single year, and I believe it gets more clever every single year, is I look at there are a ton of different things of different places that will give you sort of like, really trying to walk you through honestly what we're trying to walk you through right here. You can talk to other organizations, or you can figure out what you're doing, put together everything. And I mean, I'm talking about really anecdotal sort of gathering information on what end of year stuff you're doing, and then do something that is completely out of the lines, out of the boundaries. If you think you're going to send an email on Giving Tuesday and have that be unique, that is the day I can guarantee you are not sending a unique email. Build out a cut through the clutter email the day before or 2 days before. Follow up the next day and reinforce the matching grant and say, hey, look, we still can match this if you get us the money today. Whatever the case may be, try to break the normal rules of set out your schedule and then look at the gaps, because those gaps are actually the places where you can engage people. And so that to me is the only thing I would add is you've got to be clever. This is the time to be smart. Don't put all your eggs in the clever basket, but definitely every year be testing something that you didn't do last year.
That's a great point. I'm always trying to test something like just a little different on the envelope for the Christmas cards, or the package that we're sending for supporter gifts. This year I'm going to do something a little crazy, and I think I'm going to bake hundreds of cookies instead of mailing out Saint socks or a cookbook. I might mail out Christmas cookies to a bunch of people who will say, I only have more cookies, but they'll have a hard time throwing away. And once they taste them, they're going to want to eat all of them. So.
Well, first of all, I hope I'm on that.
Yeah,
I was like, you better donate to Students for Life, Brendan.
Well, there's some time.
You have time to hurry up and get on my list.
I think I can do that, and I think what you're saying here though is not just about the cookies or the recipe. It's about being yourself, right? If Joshua were to send me a fundraising email that here's a quick recipe I just found, like that's a little weird. It's not what I expect from him, right? So it's what is let your personality shine. What is the thing that your donors expect or maybe don't expect from you? What's going to maybe catch their eye a little bit, but it has to really fit with the overall brand that you yourself have and that your organization has. And I think the other way to really, this is just a pet peeve of mine for really standing out at the end of the year. If your reason to give to the organization is to get a tax deduction at the end of the year, then what's even the point? What are we even doing here, right? Because everybody knows they're getting tax deductions, and really a lot of your donors aren't even itemizing their deductions anyways, especially since they've increased the standard deduction. So you have to really come up with, and that's what Kristen and Josh have really been talking about, what is the reason to give? All the way back to the beginning of what is our value proposition? What are we accomplishing? What is our plan for next year? That's what you're building around. That's the reason to give. It can't just be for the tax deduction. That's a nice thing, but everybody knows that. And I can give to any other nonprofit organization and get that exact same tax deduction. So really have that to stand out. That is, come up with a great, compelling reason. So we're wrapping up, starting to wrap up here. Kristen, first to you, what are some of the, best tips, lessons you've learned? Is there anything else that we haven't talked about today that you really want to be able to share with anyone? And Joshua, get ready, because this question is coming to you next. But, we've gone through a lot, and there's a lot of different, tips and little things you've picked up for so many years of doing this. What else do you think is really important to share with everybody?
Well, I think I went over and I've kind of given out some of my best tips already. I think the personalization is key. I think that's something that I've learned. That's something that goes a long way with supporters, especially in that gap between Giving Tuesday and end of the year, that you're getting in front of them. I think that match is absolutely critical because it gives a sense of urgency to the supporters as to why they need to give to you right now and why they can't give to you January 1st, that they have to give to you right now. I do truly believe in that. I also think that sitting down and doing a little bit of analysis work, looking at your givers, your donors from last year, the year before that, and then where you are this year, who hasn't given so far this year, that you want to make sure that they give before the end of the year, so they don't drop off and get considered an inactive donor. Where are the gaps? Maybe someone who gave you $15,000 last year only gave you $2,000 this year. So where do you have those gaps? That is going to be really key for helping you make your target list, because the emails and the mail and even the calling campaign, when you set out to do that calendar, that can be pretty much for everybody. And that can be organization wide, but there should be a list that you as the executive or you as the chief fundraising officer should be really honing in on. And maybe the list is too big just for you, so maybe you will have to recruit a board member or somebody else. I think that will help you. I know for me, that helps kind of center me from this general overwhelmed feeling of there's so much to do, there's so much going on. Well, if I can make a list of 10 supporters that haven't given at the same level they gave last year, or who had promised me they would give, when I met with them 6 months ago, but whether I didn't follow up with them or they didn't follow up with me, I don't know, but they never did, but I need to touch base with them. If I can make a list just of 10 people, I'm going to hit my end of the year goal. And I think that'd be very important.
That's, I think, fantastic. And that personal follow-up, the personal connection is so hugely important. And that's what we've done. And I think it's been very successful for Students for Life and so many other organizations over the years. Joshua, what about you? What are your best tips? Anything else that we haven't covered today that you think would be really important and helpful for end of year fundraising?
No, I mean, I think we covered most of it. One thing is, Kristen just mentioned end of year goals. And I don't think maybe that we covered really setting the benchmarks and everything. And that's really going to be dependent on the organization. But I would set those benchmarks and make sure you're looking at, and it really gets into everything that Kristen said with analysis, is just, that is something you absolutely have to do. I would say this is a year where there's a lot of hustle. If your whole team's not involved in fundraising at the end of the month, I think that you're doing something wrong. I think everyone, like Kristen mentioned, the writing the letters, everything. This is the real moment where your mission kind of becomes a reality for the next year as you get into your planning. The other thing is, and not an effort to really be cheesy in a sense. If I were marketing, I'd try to be a lot more clever than this, and just say that. Get the class, you know what I mean, that we've been talking about, that's linked below. I know that for me, when I started a nonprofit years back, I had no idea how to do any of this. And it really is, and I think that is where it comes from, like certainly my heart in this, and I know for Kristen and Brennan, is that this is something that we know we needed. And so I think when you look at it and you're debating whether or not to get it, we have a discount right now at $99 because this is the time of year you should be making money, not spending it. And so it's a no-brainer. In all honesty, it is not too late to do your end of year fundraising. It's going to set you up next year well. It is everything that we know that we needed that absolutely no one would tell us, and we had to figure it out on our own. And we're just trying to give that to you. So please check it out. It's definitely worth doing if you haven't done the master class. And go through the masterclass and get the course. It is worth your time, because everything we talked about here is just simply built upon at a level that will help you execute in the next year a lot better than you're doing now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's this, as I mentioned, I think in the masterclass originally, this has been a dream of mine for a long time, of putting together something to help others, because a lot of these lessons we've had, individually, we've learned the hard way. Brendan was with me when we learned some of them the hard way. And I was lucky along the way to find a few mentors who are willing to divulge their secrets or give me their suggestions for what I need to be thinking of or planning for. But those people were really few and far between. In fact, I can name them today on my one hand, and it's fewer than 5. It's fewer than my fingers. And so I think that this is something that it's a unique opportunity for you to really transform the organization and your mission going forward in 2021, because of some of the questions, some of the things that we hope to start you thinking about. If you can get those answered, if you can figure that out, your fundraising pitch will essentially be done for you. And then all you'll have to do is communicate it out to your team and to your supporters. And that's in itself, it's its own challenge of cascading communication. But I think a lot of times folks just get crippled by that there's so much going on that I can't do anything. And there is something you can do. And I think the course is a great opportunity. A lot of us are going back into lockdowns. I got just a text message from my county health department while I was sitting here with this webcast telling me we were in shutdown mode now, not to leave my house because of COVID. So what else are you going to do besides watch 23 short video courses? This is something you can make a commitment to. And one course a day, 8 minutes. Some of mine, I think I run 13, minutes. I think one runs a half an hour. I went a little long, but there was a lot of information for me to communicate. These are things that I truly wish some of them would have sat me down and explained to me. And you're probably going to have questions as you go through this course. So there's a way for you to email Josh, Brendan, and I as you're going through the course. I think I actually give out some of our personal emails in there as well. So you can email us follow-up questions that you have, because we know there's not going to be a cookie cutter approach to every single organization. Even things that we're talking about today for end of year fundraising, I know it's not going to be able to be applied to every organization, but hopefully this gets kind of the wheels turning in your head of, oh, I can't do this, but I could do this and I could apply it here. Because I think that's what we all need, is that little push sometimes to innovate and to be creative, so how we can stand out in the marketplace and how we can be successful in making that case to supporters and why supporters should invest in us and our leadership and our missions. So click the link below. It's $99, 23 video sessions. You would have had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars anywhere else to get the lessons that you've learned. In fact, I have paid thousands and thousands
we all
to high-paid consultants over the years to learn these lessons.
At $99, it's, I think, the best investment you can make in your organization, for sure, because we've paid that money for you.
Yeah.
You can thank all the generous supporters of Students for Life over the years who've helped me pay consultants to teach me these things that then we're now teaching you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Kristen and Joshua, so much for your time today. Thank you to everyone for watching and participating in this strategy session. Like Kristen said, we are here to help you raise more money, be more successful, be more strategic, and really thrive in your nonprofit ministry. So please, I encourage you, like everyone said, go and purchase the course, watch the videos, go out, have a successful, great end of year fundraising, set yourselves up for 2021. I hope you have learned some things today that you can take today back to your ministry that will help you raise more money so that you can accomplish your mission, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So thank you. We look forward to seeing you in the Thriving Nonprofit Leadership course.
And send us what happens. We want to know.
Yes, sure. We want to hear. We love success stories.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.